There are 84 more days to Halloween. My name is Insane Raven, and this is 100 Days of Halloween, the daily podcast where I go watch a horror movie I've never seen before, and then I talk about it with you guys. Every now and then I get a lump stuck in my throat that makes talking really awkward, and most of the time I'm watching a movie that no one's heard of because I have to have not have seen it before. Because that is the stick I've chosen. That's the shtick, you see? It's a sticky shack. So, what are we watching today? Well, today we watched There's Someone in Your House, which came out in 2021, which I know was just last year. So, a bit of an early one. It's a Netflix movie. I'm not sure if they made it or if they just bought the rights to it like they did with A Woman in a Window when that never came out in theaters. But that little end is there, and let me tell you, you're gonna see it. So, There's Someone Inside Your House is a teen slasher flick, which is one of the type of genre and the type of horror subgenre, I should say, that I personally struggle with, because a lot of the times they're just dumb. Unless they're a Scream or unless they're one of the OG classics, there's not really a lot you can do with a teen slasher flick, and that's why these movies, for me, tend to be really boring. I've seen the kills for most of these, for most of the big name ones, even though I haven't watched any of the big named movies. Yeah, the only classic horror slasher flick I've seen is the first Nightmare on Elm Street, bits and pieces of Halloween 2016, or was that 2018? I'm not sure. And that's it. I don't think I've ever seen one of those movies in its entirety. So they could, and they probably should, show up on this podcast on next season, because I am committing to at least one more season of this. At least one more season of 100 Days of Halloween, just to get the full set, That's all I want. I want the full 100 days set, at least once. And, I realized this a bit too late this year, so we're going to do that next year. But There's Someone Inside Your House is based off of a book of the same name. I didn't get the author down, and like I said, teen slasher flicks aren't really my bag. Not because I don't find them entertaining. It's always going to be entertaining to watch someone get murdered. But just plot-wise, is more of just kill, 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 kill. Who did it? And that's very much what this movie kind of falls into as well. It is more or less a whodunit of who is the masked killer, very much like Scooby-Doo on steroids, trying to figure out who's getting inside the houses. This killer does something pretty interesting, though, and reveals all of the person's secrets as, either right before or right after they kill their victim. That's not entirely clear, but there is a lot of planning and a lot that goes into getting these kills off. This masked killer, you don't realize until the second kill he does, dresses up, 3D prints a mask of his victim's face, prints out all of their sins, and then goes and kills them. There's a lot of prep work into this. It's kind of insane. Now, if you're going to listen all the way through to the end, I will be spoiling this movie, so I'd say stop around the 20-minute mark of this podcast and just be hey, I do kind of want to see this movie. It does sound like a delightful trash file. Let me go watch this real quick, and we'll be A-okay to do so. I always recommend, checking out the thing I'm talking about, whether it's on this podcast, 100 Days of Halloween, the Tale to the Hunt podcast that I have on Spotify, Stitcher, and pretty much everywhere you can get a podcast, when we talk about video games, and if I eventually open up a podcast about a book club, reading the book as well. Because, we're here for the stories, right? So let's talk about this freaking movie. So it starts out with a cold open of a football player on the phone telling his friends how his version of pre-gaming doesn't involve drinking and involves sleeping. And he's just gonna sleep his little day away right before his big game, sets an alarm, and he's all good. But he finds a egg timer on the kitchen just kind of ticking, doesn't think anything of it, and then goes up to his room because that's a perfectly normal thing to do. Like, and I feel like this is one of the moments where it's like, look, dude, there's an egg timer just ticking away, ticking on heaven's door over here, and you're just like, that's perfectly normal. Like, he does give a little shout to be like, yo, anyone in the house? And of course no one answers because the only person in the house is a murderer who's gonna do a murder. He's gonna commit a murder. A murder? A gouda murder on the monster. Enough of the cheesy puns, we're moving on. But like, no one's gonna answer you, bro. Especially if they're like not supposed to be there. Which is, one of the things, like, with teen slasher flicks, where it's like, ugh. But then again, like, I do the same thing when I go into my house, and I'm like, something's off here? Hello? And, like, I'm also screaming at myself, like, what do you think he's gonna do? Be like, making a sandwich, you want one? Like, no, that's not gonna happen. Also, I stole that joke from somewhere. I know I did, but my brain can't come up with where I stole it from. So if you do know, no, John Mulaney. I'm 90% sure that's John Mulaney. 90% sure. Anyway, so that whole thing goes on. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. He doesn't find anyone. He just goes to bed, and then he wakes up, and it's nighttime, and his family has decided to go off to the game where he's supposed to be at without him, which is quite a bold thing to do, if I'm honest. Like, kind of bold. Some of the things that happen in this movie to get people alone is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this kid is a football player, right? He's supposed to be playing the football game his family is at, and they're like, "Nah, we ain't gonna bring him." Like, okay, I get it. He's one of the cool dudes, but like, can at least check on him. At least make sure he leaves the house, you know what I mean? Now, we'll give him some credit. The dad is calling him repeatedly, but oh no! He doesn't have his phone. The killer does. So now he's chasing his phone around the house, which, again, my guy, I feel like when your phone starts moving around your house without you, I feel like that's like, nope, I'm out. And I'll give him even more credit because he does go to leave and his truck's gone. This bastard stole his truck and he's just like, shit, I guess I gotta go fuck some dude up in my house. Like, it's kind of brilliant because even as I'm raising these oppositions and being like, guys, like, I can't stand this genre, it's being like, hey, no, this is why you should stand the genre. It's like, I'm not a stan. Yes, but I am a stan. Tears don't roll up and down my eyes. Sometimes I wonder why I got out of bed at all. Dad, mom, spaghetti. Moving on. So he's also getting these pictures of what is basically a pretty intense hazing ritual, which whoever took pictures of this to begin with, bro, you got issues. Like, I kind of get the hazing thing. Not supportive. I think it's really shitty, but I kind of get it. If you're like holding on to these pictures though, and you're taking these pictures, you're asking to get caught eventually. You're just asking for it, which is such a terrible phrase. But you're taking pictures of you beating the shit out of a dude. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? And it is brutal. Like, they put a bag over this kid's head and then pound his face into mashed potatoes. So when he like gets the bag removed, all of this is shown in pictures. by the way. This is why I'm like so like, bro, what did you think was gonna happen? He's like, mouth and nose is all bloodied and awful. Our footballer picks up a golf club and he's like, it's my house! I have the right to kill you at this point! Like, I was like, oh, standing ground. He must be a Florida man. But he's not! Because it's, well, he might be. Does the movie tell you where it takes place? I don't think so. So he picks up this golf club and goes into this walk-in closet and just kind of like starts swinging at the clothes because he's assuming that the killer's in there because he's now in this tiny closet surrounded by pictures of his attempted murder of a fellow student. And this is where the dude, your killer, does something that I can't stand. So I watched Hostel when I was like 8. And if you don't know what Hostel is, like, you're fucking lucky. But it's one of the movies that like has messed me up so bad. And the scene that always sticks in my mind so clearly is when the guy like wakes up in his chair and the door's been left open. And he's like, I can go. I can make it. And he stands up and he goes to take a leap and his like Achilles tendons have been severed. So he just falls forward and it's the most disgusting thing. It's the most brutal thing in the world. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the killer just like pokes his little knife out, goes, here's my little knife. You're all fine. It's a little knife. Don't mind me. Slice! And just slices his Achilles tendons. I'm having PTSD flashbacks at 4 a.m. And he's just screaming. He's like, why are you doing this? And he just kills him. And then that's when you get your code open. Like, your code open's done now. We're moving on. And that's when you find out we're at the football game. Either right before this happened or like right after this happened. I'm pretty sure it's right after it happened. Everyone in the school and the cheerleaders as well get pictures of this hazing ritual. So as the quarterback is like running across the end zone, I don't know football terms, happy as can be, he's like, yeah, I did it. Everyone's looking at him like he committed a murder when he's a kid getting his face pulverized. Like, it is such a baffling moment. Like, could you imagine that happening in real life? Like, you finally get this tall moment. For some reason, the quarterback didn't show up, and it's your moment. You're going for it. The lights are there. The enemy's coming at you. You move past them because you know how to do a sport, and you're fucking running. You're making it. And then you get there, and you go to bath in your glory, and everyone's like, you did what? What? It's like knowing that you were just absolutely brutalized and like your shining moment has become this like crowning jewel of just you are a victim. And it's like, oh, it's like, I really did like this movie. I liked 90% of this movie. You know, this movie falls apart in like the last 15 minutes. And I don't know what it is about movie, like a lot of movies nowadays, but they can't stick the landing. Like, they get almost there and they fumble. A sport term. I know a sport. Hee hee. What the fuck? So then, everyone is kind of showing grief and mourning this like star football player because it's high school. What else are you gonna do? And the entire football team and cheerleading squad has like an impromptu service where the guy starts singing. Like, one of the other football players starts singing. Everyone joins in with him. He gets roasted by a cool group of friends of like 6 people. Which I'm not going to tell you their names. I want you to have some reason to watch this movie. 6 people over here. And then decides to pour out some monster. Like, it's a freaking beer. Like, pour one out for your homies. And I'm over here, the caffeine addict's like, how dare you pour out the liquid of the gods? that? Like, just scratching my neck, being like, hey, you got some of that Monster, friend? When you're not pouring on the ground for someone who's not even gonna drink it. I get it when it's like at an actual memorial service, but this is the school, bro. Like, all you did was bring Anne to that single moment. And it's a really touching scene. Skipping forward a little bit, we then get to the next kill. Because there is some plot stuff, but I mean, I'm kind of just skipping them to get to the gory parts. Because, I mean, it's a horror movie podcast. I don't know what else you expect me to be talking about, really. Especially when it's when it's a movie like this that is so like, hey, we're here for the kills, which is, you know, exciting. But then we go into the next kind of scene, and it's the memorial service for the actual memorial service at like a church for the football player. It's not like last time where I just forgot that Sailor Boy's name is Johnny. But again, his name is Johnny Sailor Boy. Like, how was I supposed to remember that? No, but anyway. You have the Student Body President Council member. Student Body President. I probably didn't even say council. Remember, he's like, she's like dressed up as like an angel for some reason. I've never been to a funeral where that's a thing. And I've gone to like 8 funerals this year alone, but I've never seen like an angelic costuming arrangement for this, which makes you really wonder what the fuck was gonna be like the funeral. Like, we have angels, and apparently there's more than one angel. Because as she's kind of talking about like how brutal this whole thing was, and like it comes right after the scene of like how we have to love and accept everyone. But she's like putting on these pamphlets, like the brochures essentially of the person's death. And she's talking to someone up at the projector room, and the projector cuts on, and it's her on a like super racist podcast talking about like facts and whatever, and she's like, hey, what the fuck? Like, I made it as a joke. Like trolling them from the inside, you know? Like, I don't mean any of those things, you know? And the killer then shows up, and I would have sworn he was wearing a black robe when he was up at the projector. But now he's, like, on ground floor, and he's in a white robe, playing with his knife. Like, doing some knife foreplay, if you're into that. And he's like, and like, silent as stone, has a face of her face on it, which is super creepy. And this is when you actually realize that he's printing these out. Like, you realize at the opening credits that as he's printing out one of the masks, but like, this is when you realize there's like, oh, it's not a generic male face mask. It's like, he's personalizing his masks for his victims. He swipes her gut and is brutal. She starts crawling on the pews, like her hands are bloody, messing up all the pews, and it's awful. And then she goes to hide in the confessional, and this is my favorite kill in the entire movie, and that's why I'm talking about it. Like, so she goes in the confessional, and the killer's stabbing at her. And at one point, he just like stabs the confessional to the point where his knife gets stuck. And it's just like, oh, stuck there. And then he goes away. And she's like, oh, thank God, I'm safe. She's still bleeding from the stomach. Like, she's gonna die anyway if she doesn't get emergency attention soon. Because she's just like, she's not spewing her guts literally, but she's like bleeding all over the place. Where the killer just comes up behind her, punches through the confessional with like superhuman strength, and just shoves her head on the knife that's there. She eats the knife like it's a tasty treat. Like, nom. Knife. This just knife. Like, oh my God. It's brutal. And you're not expecting it. Like, this movie has like surprisingly some pretty good kills. Like, gore-wise. Unfortunately, when it comes to like interesting ones, this is kind of the last one we actually get to see, and all the rest of them kind of pay off from there. But I want to talk about who. This is a spoiler warning, by the by. because I do like skipping the majority of the movie now, like a good hour of this movie. I want to talk about the reveal, because the reveal, in my opinion, ruins the movie. Because he has to go and explain why he did this, why he's been doing this. So again, if you're going to keep listening, well, under the contract, the spoken word contract, because those are liable, that you're not going to go see this movie, or there's no very little point in you seeing the movie now, or you've already seen the movie, because this is a spoiler. I've been saying the word spoiler and spoiler related things for 40 seconds now. If you're still here, it's your fault. The main killer turns out to be Jake Sanford, who is essentially like the richest guys in town's snub-nosed son, who's basically been buying out all the property, has now brought in his own like security team that acts as the police force because there's a killer on the loose. And this whole scene comes up after the fact that we've already had like a fake out with like the obvious red herring, which is annoying because our main star goes, "It was the red herring. I ripped off his mask and I saw him," which makes no sense then for it to be a completely different person, and it makes me so angry on the inside. But he has like basically a superhero costume. He has like this hoodie and a sword on his back, and he just manages like to walk through all the security with like it's no big deal, which is the most confusing thing in the movie. Like, the movie takes time to make a point of how he has like this ultra security present, and the dude walks through this corn maze, because it's at a corn maze, don't you know, with a whole samurai sword on his back, like, "What's up, guys? I'm here to walk through a maze," and just immediately ducks into like the corn stalks. Like, there's so many like, hey, he has a mask of a dude's face on his face. Maybe we shouldn't do this. I'm getting some real Handsome Jack vibes, but Handsome Jack was so handsome. He was also a megalomaniac. Don't worry about it. So it gets revealed that it's Jake Sanford, and he's sitting there, it's like, everyone has a mask, and I'm the only one without a mask. Just because I had money and I was privileged doesn't mean that I should feel bad about those things. And hey, fair point. Just because you have money and privilege doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't. Choosing to then say everyone else is not as good of a person because they weren't given this amazing like life hack essentially of being born rich, or like they got what they deserve or whatever, and like not acknowledging the fact that life's kind of easier for you, bro. That's what makes you a bad person, not this. Or if you're in Jake's case, the fact that you're going around killing people. So again, like, this whole reveal is just stupid. His motivations is very stupid. It's very much like, it comes across very affluenza kid syndrome, which is just bullshit. And all of it. So it's like, okay. And then he gets murdered by our main dude, our main lady, our final girl, because there's always a final girl. And I'm going to talk more about the final girl when like there's an actual final girl. Because even though I just called her a final girl, she's not. Like, both of her friends still make it, so she's fine. Like, nah. And it's just this really cool moment of like, oh, he's dead, and everything's on fire behind her. It's really like a cool visual. And then we just start going through like little character epitaphs, essentially. Not epitaph's the wrong word. Character like visuals. Yeah, well, we get to see where everyone goes to college and everyone basically lives happily ever after. And it's like, okay, not bad. Not a bad ending. Like, very stupid how we got here, but not a bad ending. Like, I'm willing to give it some bones. So, but that was There's Someone in Your House. Our first teen slasher flick that we've watched, and not gonna be our last, because there's so many teen slasher flicks, and we have 84 days left till Halloween. That was the goofiest way I could have said that, but I'm proud of him. So what are we going to watch tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to be watching something with my girlfriend. Maybe. Possibly. She won't be here. Because she might have to go to work. So, if she's not at work, we'll be watching episodes 1 and 2 of Stranger Things Season 4. Because I haven't seen it yet. And I'm kind of excited we're doing this podcast. Because now I have a reason to, watch them, basically. But there is one kind of horror movie that I've been neglecting, if I'm honest, and that is ghosts, because ghosts scare the shit out of me. I absolutely hate a good there's nothing scarier to me than a ghost story. Because I can't fight a ghost. I can punch a slasher in the face. I might lose, but I can't punch a ghost in the face. I've tried before. It doesn't work out. So we're going to be watching either the first 2 episodes of Stranger Things Season 4, or we're hopping back over to Shudder to watch The Wailing. This is a Korean film, so bear with me. Because, first off, if you didn't think we were going to watch international films on this podcast, I'm sorry, you were wrong. In this unbelievably tense supernatural thriller, a foreigner's mysterious appearance in a quiet, rural, I can't say that word, village causes suspicions amongst the locals. Suspicion which quickly turns into hysteria as the townspeople begin killing each other in brutal outbursts for seemingly no reason. As the investigating officer watches his daughter fall under the same savage spell, he agrees to consult a shaman for answers, unknowingly escalating the situation into something far more dangerous. So I'm really excited to be watching The Wailing for a Korean film tomorrow. But, by the end of the week, we will be watching some Stranger Things. So don't worry if you're a big Stranger Things fan. We will be getting there. But that's the skinny of it. I'm excited. The Wailing is a 2.5-hour movie. It might be the longest movie we've done in the podcast so far. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Happy Halloween.